Hi, you're watching the development vlog for Shokken, a multi-platform waitlist management tool soon to be made available on Android and iOS. This is Bill from Shokken, and this is week 57 of development. The current status continues to be that the Android and iOS alpha test version of the app is ready and available for testing on Google Play Store and iOS App Store. Small caveat, the iOS app is no longer being updated as of now. The Android version continues to receive weekly updates, a lot of times more frequently than weekly. The reason for my suspension of the Apple iOS apps update on the App Store, that's not my decision. It's a result of the transition for my developer account with Apple from individual account to organizational account. So to elaborate, part of the process that I'm involved in, including last week and this week, is changing my developer account from individual as a natural person to a legal person. And that process was done with Google last week because Google's process was very straightforward and mostly automated. You submit your information on the web portal, and I think it took one business day before they were like, okay, you're good to go. So with Google, I'm already done, and I can continue to upload and sign my app to the Play Store. There's no problem there. With Apple, it seems to be a very manual process. So when you start the process, Apple website asks you for a bunch of information, and evidently what happens is the website then sends the information you submitted as an email to a human for manual review. And that person got in touch with me, and that person isn't even the person who's processing my application to transition the account. That person is essentially just somebody who's gathering the documents on behalf of the team that would have to review my documents. So through email correspondence, I submitted more documents that they were looking for, and now it's with the review team for processing. And during the entire period of time, my Xcode, I lose my ability to sign apps with my Xcode. In other words, I can't publish anything to the iOS App Store because I can't sign them. So iOS updates are now paused as a result of this, and then they cannot resume until the transition is complete and that they reinstate my capability to sign apps. That's one of the goals for last week, and this week I continue to work on this goal. And it's going to take a bit longer than originally anticipated. According to the internet, it takes about a month to 2 months. So you're just going to have to do what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to wait. The second goal for last week was finishing up the marketing website. In other words, the product website for the app I'm developing. That's mostly done, with the exception of the screenshots as well as the video example of the website for two reasons. Number one, the app is not yet feature complete, and I'll talk about this in just a second. Number two, it involves some rudimentary skills of video editing, which I will gain. Let's put it that way. The app is currently in a state where I'm squashing more and more bugs as users test and expose more interesting ways that they use the app that I hadn't really considered before. However, I'm also finding myself going along the feature creep temptation because, again, building features is fun, and then you can see new capabilities of your app, and then you think in your head that, hey, your users would want to see this, and use that as justification for you to spend more time in front of the computer doing dev as opposed to actually freezing the features and publish the goddamn thing. So I think I am adding... The last week, I added two features. Number one is the RevenueCat paywall, which is essential to me not going bankrupt when I publish the app, because the users of the app are expected to incur considerable expenses, at least on my part, and I have to make sure that there's a way for me to collect payments from them before I release the app into the wild. So that RevenueCat side of things is done, and I ran into a lot of hiccups and bugs that I had to squash. RevenueCat implementation with the two respective stores, the Play Store as well as the iOS App Store. That's not trivial. That wasn't trivial the first time I did it earlier last year, and it still isn't trivial now. But that's done. At least I think that's done until my users, my testers, figure out new ways to break it, in which case I'm going to have to fix the bugs, of course. The second thing that I was thinking about adding was I browsed some of my competitors, and I noticed that a lot of them do have this QR ad features. Now, to back up a little bit, what this app does, what my app does, is it's a waitlist management tool. Imagine you're a restaurant and you have a very busy night. 10 people lined up outside your restaurant waiting to get in. Your host is like jotting down their number or handing out the pager, the physical pager. Problem with either of those two approaches is, number one, is very manual with the jotting down the names and stuff. And number two, the pager is actually quite expensive. And they're not only expensive, they're, people steal them, people forget to return them, they break. So it's not terribly cost effective for the restaurant. In addition to that, the guest that holds your pager would have to just like sit around your restaurant and not be able to roam around and go to other parts of the mall, for instance, or other nearby stores to shop around, because lest that they should not get the signal when you are trying to call them, and reduces customer satisfaction, of course. So the tool, the waitlist management tool that I'm using for this app, literally gives the host the capability to jot down the person's name, party size, and phone number. And that's it. And then the guest would then receive a text message telling them that they're in line, and then will be a link that they can click in their text message to see their current position in line, how many minutes they waited, and the longest wait period of all the parties that are currently in line, to give them an idea of how long the wait is. And given that, they can just wander away. Let's say that on the web page you see that the longest, the person who's been in line the longest has been there for like 2 hours, and then you just join the line and you really want to dine at this restaurant. I mean, hell, get to the park nearby and walk around and walk away the calories that you're going to consume very shortly, right? So you have the freedom to go away. One feature that a lot of competitors have, and in fact, I've definitely thought about when I first started imagining this app, is a QR code join. In other words, instead of the host having to interact with you manually and then use the app on their tablet to jot down your information before you can be officially admitted to the waitlist, the QR code just sits in the restaurant or somewhere visible for the guests, and the guests can just use their phone to scan the QR code and self-enroll in the waitlist. And the implementation itself isn't actually that difficult, considering the fact that with the waitlist you already have all the features, the backends, and the edge functions and everything already in place. All that you need to do is to add a couple of database tables and a couple of edge functions to process those requests. There are two considerations that I had when I was looking at the competitors' offerings. Number one is that they don't really advertise the feature in sort of in an aggressive way. So I don't know whether or not they're afraid that people might not like this feature, or it's that just the marketing hasn't caught up with the app feature yet. So that's something for me to sort of discover when I actually start reaching out to users and then getting their feedback. But number two, adding this feature and running this feature actually has a lot of security, cost, usage implications that might not be very apparent initially. So for one very simple example, when you expose the QR code publicly, I mean, QR code is just nothing more than just a link, at least in my case, right? I mean, it can code a lot of other information, but in my case, it's just a link. When you expose that publicly, everybody can get to that link. And Well, the first situation is the denial service situation. You know, if somebody really dislikes me or as a competitor of me, or really dislikes the restaurant that is displaying this QR code, they can maliciously attack it and cause it to be offline. I mean, you know, it's the very simple denial of service attack. But it goes more than just that, because with the QR code, what happens is when somebody joins the waitlist, that person receives a text message for, you know, their status, their party sets, their name, and a link for them to track their position. This message is not free. It, at the very least, costs me money, and I'm still trying to figure out the pricing structure for this. Do I, do pay as you go, or do I do a all-in-one sort of subscription so that restaurant operators wouldn't have to worry about variable cost? But besides that, like, somebody has to send this, and somebody has to pay for the cost of sending this. And if you expose a QR code that enables a foreign party, somebody that you don't know, to be able to just start consuming your resources, and very expensive resources. SMSs are really expensive to send in the cloud. If you don't guard it right, you can be bankrupt in one day. So, but then if you added friction, then either the guests would be frustrated when they try to join a waitlist, or the host might be frustrated because of all the hoops that they have to help the guests to overcome. So this actually requires quite a bit more consideration than I originally anticipated. Just thinking about, okay, a couple of database tables and edge functions, and then you can do the QR code. The rudimentary implementation is now done, and I'm quite pleased with the way it turned out. I'm going for the low friction with some I think I implemented 2 to 3 layers of defense in depth. If a determined attacker really wants to screw with me, they still can. But you're really going to have to really not like me for you to want to overcome the 2 to 3 layers of stuff that I put in place to prevent you from doing that. As a result, this feature took longer than I thought. That said, it is in place, and I do want to roll it out into the initial public version of the app. And I think one of the things that I have to promise myself is to freeze the goddamn features. I know there's always this temptation to... It can be a hobby, right? Like, if you're just doing this as a hobby and you're just putting in more and more features because it makes you feel good, go do it by all means. And honestly, I think a big part of my development journey has been like that. It's been very enjoyable in terms of the learning opportunities, as well as just the self-satisfaction of seeing something coming into shape, and fantasizing and daydreaming and imagining that it can be actually helpful to users. But it's another thing that when you want to run this as a business, you can't afford to do this all day, every day, forever. So I'm going to make a promise to myself that I think and I hope I will stick to right now, is that after the implementation of the QR code feature and the RevenueCat feature, that's it. These are all the features that I'm going to put in for the initial public release of the app. Freeze them, and then all that I'm going to do is to squash bugs and then polish the app. No more features. That's the promise I'm going to make myself. And that's actually the promise I'm going to make to the potential users who might be interested in actually seeing how this app can help streamline their host stand workflow, and cause to alleviate their headaches and then increase their customer satisfaction, and all the value proposition of what this app is offering. So, in summary, last week the website is mostly done. I need to pick up on video editing and think about how I want to record the feature videos. Apple developer account migration from individual to organizational account still ongoing. That's probably going to be another month or 2. RevenueCat has been implemented, and QR code scan join self-service has also been implemented. Next week, well, record the feature videos and put them on the website and squash more bugs. Reach out to more testers, have them test the app, squash more bugs. In any case, I can't really do much until Apple completes the transition. So I'm sort of giving myself the excuse to take a little bit of time and breathe a little bit. But yeah, I mean, that's where we are now. That's it for this week. I'll see you next week.